Hey everybody, welcome to the From Us to Youth podcast. My name is Brian. This is Justyn Payne. He is my former roommate. In fact, you were the last person I lived with before I began living with my wife. So,
all right.
You have an honored position in my life.
I got him ready.
Well, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of truth to that, actually. I learned a lot living in that apartment and how to honor the people that you're living with, and like air conditioning and washing dishes and all sorts of, and one of the things. So for me, I'm a little bit of a miser, and we're totally getting off topic, but it's okay.
Let's go for it.
I'm a little bit of a miser, so I'm like, I hold on to my nickels and pennies, and so I would go buy groceries, and then he might watch this podcast, but we had a certain roommate that lived with us that would sometimes eat our groceries.
Oh my gosh.
And he wouldn't go buy any.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just because the dude was so busy. I mean, I really do believe it. He was not trying to.
I believe I tried to cook. Well, I would try to cook a bigger meal just so that I know you and I ate and be like, all right, here's your.
Yeah, here you go, man. Here you go.
Let me just turn it into kindness so I'm not ticked off all the time.
So I definitely, and it's funny that we're talking about this because around graduation time, because whenever I talk to graduates and they're going to college and they're going to live with somebody that they don't know and all that stuff, most of the things that I tell them are things that I learned from living in that apartment.
Absolutely.
And because I think we lived together for 2 years. Is that right?
I think it was 2 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's enough time to go through some stuff.
Yeah. It was incredible. I was the guy he's referring to regarding the air conditioning. My wife is she thought I was crazy, but no, I've been about this way about my air conditioning for a very long time.
Now I'm trying to remember. You liked it warmer.
Yeah,
right?
I grew up warmer, but I also this is the thing. I was there before you got there, and also there after. That air conditioning stunk so bad.
Yeah,
it would not cool the place down. So
and it was right by your room.
It was right by your room, and so my room. So it was like I knew that this air conditioner would freeze up all the time.
Yeah.
So I knew when, and it wasn't like those pre-programmed air conditioners. You had to set it. So I knew that when to turn it on and when to turn it off in those hot, because we're on the third floor, and it was sun that always beat down on it, and when to turn it off because I knew when it was going to freeze up. If you turned it down to 74, I was going to be like, no, man. It wasn't that I didn't like it cold. I just knew that at 1 a.m. I'm going to be sweating.
Right. It's going to be bad. That's so true. So we brought Justyn on to give us a perspective that we don't know. So this podcast originates in Canyon Lake, Texas, which if you go look up the census is really white. Really, really white. And so, quite honestly, as a podcast that's supposed to first resource our kids and our youth ministry, and then to the ends of the earth, right? Mm-hmm. We want to make sure and give them perspectives that maybe they don't know. Maybe they just don't have someone who's African American in their life, and they just don't. They've just never heard any stories. They don't know what it's like to be in your shoes. And so what we want to do is we want to hear your story, and then of course talk about how your story intersects with Jesus, and how going through things like the kind of time that our nation is in right now, what Jesus has to say about that, and how we can walk with Jesus as we walk through these times. So first thing I want to ask you is, who is Justyn Payne? Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In that same context, I was born and raised. I can't even say born and raised. Dang it. Raised in Texas, born in Boston. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my father-in-law hates this. If he's watching, oh my gosh. He says, I have no problem that you married my daughter. I'm just mad you're from Boston. my father-in-law is white, and so he's like, I'm not even worried about your black. You're from Boston.
Come on, man.
You're a Yankee. Okay, but I was like, I got here as soon as I could. My parents moved down when I was 2 years old, so we've been in the Houston area. But it's really Clear Lake, Texas, near Kemah. Great place for food, and so I grew up a NASA kid, but also very, 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 like you said, like Canyon Lake, predominantly white. I was one of the only black person in my classes in elementary school. One of maybe 7 black kids in middle school. And then by the time I got to high school, it was probably the most black people I've seen in school at like 30.
Wow.
Of a high school that had 5,000 or 6,000.
Wow.
It was very not my color. But then at the same time growing up, my mother and father are in the ministry. My mother I was raised in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Okay, so the African Methodist Episcopal Church is a hybrid of 2 denominations: Methodist, United Methodist, and the Episcopal Church. This was the historical denomination started by Richard Allen in 1800s. It was the first African American Protestant denomination, really, or church that was started because at that time, at that Methodist church, he wasn't even allowed to worship at the altar. They had a balcony. The slaves at the time had to worship in the balcony. They couldn't even approach God in the same place as the rest of the parishioners. And he's like, that's messed up. I want to be able to come to God, and in my full right as his child.
Absolutely.
And so therefore the African Methodist Episcopal Church was born. And so that was a denomination I was raised up. It was very much out of it got traditional values, but basically pretty much a black church, long story short. And so on the weekends I was at a black church, but during the week I was at white school.
Yeah.
And this is the interesting part. A lot of my churches in the denomination was also the pastors would switch depending on where you're needed, kind of like NBA players to different teams. Sometimes you wouldn't stay very long. Maybe after 4 or 5 years, they might, you did a great job pastoring there. Someone else needs you in this situation. Can you bring up this church? And so as a part of promotion, you would go to a new church and then elevate them. And so some of those elevations were in some not very high economic areas. So I'd be in Clear Lake on Monday, but on Saturday and Sunday I'd be on the corner, a church that was on the corner where you don't go outside the church gates.
Oh wow.
Kind of thing. And so that was my experience of growing up regarding like my racial perspective, because I saw both sides of the coin literally at the same time, but never together.
Wow.
So it was predominantly black church, like mostly you'd be surprised you saw a white person at the church, and then you go to a white school where you'd be surprised you saw a black person at the school.
Wow.
And here I am. And so then
you made it.
And so my perspective with Jesus is that I always had a backbone of God. I always had a backbone of who I thought I was supposed to be. But then when I got to college, as I get to college, I sort of like Texas State is a beautiful place of, wow, there's a lot of everybody here in a way. There's certainly more than what you've seen. Texas State has been growing incredibly.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Like what you know now is not even like it's wow. But you get there, it's a little overwhelming. And so I was rooted in some Christian organizations, and I tell you, they really pulled me through from not falling away from God entirely. But then, and then after that, I've just stayed in my church that was planted there. Pretty much when I got there, the church was planted there. It was called Word of Life Christian Faith Center. And I
You've
played
been there a while, right?
I'm still there, yeah. And so I've been serving there since 2005. So this is my 15th year now at that church. God. And so the music director there, and I've just played instruments, but now I'm like leading worship with the worship team all the time now. And but now the past 5 years since I've met my wife, my faith has been incredibly elevated in ways that I
Awesome.
cannot explain, because I've had to, in my opinion, I've had to really rely on God through marriage and understanding what that really meant for a relationship. And the more I was trying to forge a relationship with my future wife at that time, to realize I was lacking in my relationship with God. No matter what I knew, I truly did not apply it to my relationship with God.
Wow.
And so, but then, God blessed us. He united us, and now I'm here. I'm now serving at Texas State University as a college minister, college pastor.
Cool.
It's not really
Praise
an official
God for
title
that.
yet at our church, but but most churches kind of have like a college pastor situation.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like that's the role I kind of serve as, a pinpoint a advocate for them at our ministry at Word of Life, and then I'm also the worship director and media director there. So
cool. And you, do you work with the gospel choir there? Is that kind of one of your at Texas State?
Yeah, I'm just like an ever-present cloud of a big brother that like.
Gotcha.
Like I've seen it all, heard it all, and so I can go tell some stories. If you ever need you have a question, I'll give you an answer. And I just love them so much because of what they meant for me when I was there.
Yeah.
It's almost like to me, my own little home fraternity is like, I'm in a fraternity, but also that's like another one for like where it's like I know what good it is to be grounded in a Christian structure wherever you are. When you go to college, when you go if you move to a new city, if you get a good church, get a good body of believers, get a good small group. Amen. You're going to make your mistakes. You're going to have sin trying to influence you, but you're able to find a good people to really get you back to that place of repentance and also just helping you do better. And so GEA, Gospel Expressions, that gospel choir that's my home. That's my heart, honestly. So I love serving them. Yeah,
that's cool. Now, are you teaching also?
I'm a teacher. I am a math teacher at Hayes High School.
Yeah.
In Kyle, Texas. Yeah, Kyle, Texas. Yeah.
Are you doing that full time, or are you kind of part time at the church and
I do that
or full time on both? But you,
it's the full time. It's the main paycheck. But the church is helpful because I get a lot of things I'm a part of, and so it's that. And then I still have all my music stuff.
Yeah.
So I have a little. I love my wife. I do, because she married me and allowed me to keep all my music toys, and so I have
God.
So I have a little music man cave, but then she likes the chair and she likes the desk, and she's like, I'm going to use this office. When we had to teach from home, she's a teacher as well.
Oh, so awesome, cool.
So when I started teaching at home and she started teaching at home, she she took the good studio. But anyway, I still got.
And
the
you humbly served her.
I loved it. It was great because then I can set up the next room and call it Studio B.
Yeah.
How many people can say they got Studio A and Studio B at their home? Like I still feel like I hit the jackpot. So
absolutely. Well, I think that's important for our students and any teenager who listens to this podcast to know is that you do kind of have a pulse of teenage culture. You do you spend time with students, and I think that's because one of the things that we are trying to do here is have it as a podcast of youth workers for youth.
Gotcha.
And you do that, so I just want to make sure that they knew we were being consistent.
We're trying. Yeah. I love talking to y'all.
So to sort of just jump in head first, I want to ask you: have you ever experienced racial profiling or racism directly?
This is a real statement. More times than I can count.
Wow.
More times than I can count. More times than I wish. More times than I would ever hope. One of the most vivid times I can remember is the story I tell the most is actually I've been pulled over in my own neighborhood like 30 times.
Wow.
And I've never, still to this day, received a ticket.
Wow.
Like I have a CDL. Like you can't break laws with like these kinds of driving like restrictions of like I try to do well as a law abiding citizen. I don't like to run stop signs.
Right.
I normally drive pretty conservative. When I first met my wife, she hated how slow I drive. I drove a Toyota Camry just so I know I wouldn't go fast. Or Camry hybrid.
Yeah.
You remember Blue Thunder? That thing didn't go fast. And so. But there's this one time where I'm sitting, I got plenty of stories, but there's one time I'm sitting in the driveway with one of my best friends growing up. Like we swam on the swim team together at like a neighborhood swim team. And we've gone through college, and I'm just sitting in her driveway with her in my car. We're just talking, just having a great friendship conversation. And sometimes it's one of those greatest things, like we're safe. We're not out at a bar. We're not out partying. We just wanted to catch up. We're just talking. It wasn't like anything romantic or anything crazy like that. It was just, this is my buddy. She's awesome. She's cool. She's white. She has blonde hair. It's like a nice little bob cut. And I'm black. And my windows are not tinted, so you can easily see straight through my car. The neighborhood police patrol comes behind my car. We're in the driveway, by the way. Parked. Like, it's off. Like, the car's off.
Yeah.
And he blocks the car. He just stops there. And I see him in the back, and I realize he's running my plates. And I'm like, oh, goodness, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
And my friend, she's like, let me go talk to him. I said, I love you, but please don't get out this car.
Yeah.
Do not get out this car at all. If you get out this car, it's not going to be good for me. And so she's like, but why? I said, this isn't the first time this has happened to me. Please do not get out the car. Because I'm referring to other situations when I've been pulled over in front of my own house, in handcuffs in my own house.
Wow.
Because the officer, seeing my ID, he didn't believe that I lived where I lived.
Oh, wow. Because you were in
a medium
Clear Lake area.
Yeah. I'm in a medium affluent area. I'm in a good middle class neighborhood. But I'm like I said, I'm a music guy. I like to go listen to my music in my car. That's like a safe place for me. Is that? And most of the time for my cars, I normally like to turn the music up.
Yeah, crank it. Yeah.
And it's like, that's just me. I've always busted my parents' speakers. Yeah. And so they got tired of that. So I'm listening to my music in my car. And so the officer at that time didn't feel like I lived there. So I'm referring to that time when I'm saying, friend, I'm going to leave her nameless, please do not get out of this car. It's not going to end well for me. He walks up and says, what are y'all doing? We're talking. And then he immediately goes to her and says, are you okay?
Wow.
And he just keeps talking to her, doesn't talk to me.
Wow.
And so she was, after he left, because he didn't even run my ID. I think he did. It's sometimes a little hazy because now this is almost 10 years ago.
Right.
But she started bawling, crying so hard. And she's like, how come you're not upset? I said, because I think I'm becoming numb to it. This isn't the first time. This is your first time.
Yeah.
This is not my first time.
Wow.
She was so upset. She's like, how could he do that? How could he think that? How could he even assume they were doing anything wrong? We were just sitting here. We were just in our driveway. I'm like, yeah, I know the details.
Yeah.
That's what further almost illuminates what else could he think about. If you already know of what we did to be safe and decent citizens, it's not like it was 4 a.m, 3 a.m. This is maybe at 10 at night.
Wow.
You know, like,
yeah.
It's not even like it was like 18-year-olds can be out
yeah,
you know,
right.
at a late movie kind of thing. Like what? Like, so we after rolling it down, it only came down to one kind of deciding factor. And it's like, and that's the one that I've always kind of seen regarding me in my car when officers see me. So
yeah,
that's been one example.
Man. And, you know, I guess that when maybe the first time or the second or the third, you kind of just think, oh, they just got pulled over. But when it happens countless times to where you can't even think of all of the stories, it's you can't kid yourself into thinking that it's anything less than the color of your skin. Right.
And that's, you know, there's some things that I work with people and their lives, and even with their relationships, I always say, what's the lowest common denominator is you. No matter what, you and all of your relationships, when I'm giving a relationship advice, you are also in that situation.
Yeah, that's
and you can blame everybody else for whatever's going on about what they chose to do in this relationship. But at the end of the day, you also had a part to play. So then I would also do that same thing with me. It's like, wait a minute, did I run a stop sign, or did I do something bad, or did I used to,
try to roll it back?
Yeah, I'm not trying to necessarily be the most disrespectful guy or
yeah, sure,
or ridiculous in my attitude or demeanor. So it's like I'm very analytical. So I'm like, wait a minute, did I? No.
Pretty sure I didn't.
No, pretty sure I didn't. So if all of that happens and you're in, okay, so one more story regarding the car.
Yeah.
I tell the story, and my wife knows this story, and I was cool, kind of dating with a friend of mine, but I didn't have a car. We didn't have a car, but my buddy Nick did. I'm gonna put out his name because that's my buddy. Yeah. And we tell this story. He drove a Geo Tracker, and if you don't know, that's like a shrunk down. It's not even a Jeep. It's like less than a Jeep.
It's like half a Jeep.
It's half
or 2/3
of
a Jeep. Maybe
it's a plastic Jeep. Okay, literally with a plastic top. It's like you could have had Saran wrap on the back as the back windshield or whatever. And so we're driving from pretty much Kemah Boardwalk all the way to Clear Lake. Kemah Boardwalk is the touristy area where there's all Joe's Crab Shack, Salt Grass, and the big old boardwalk and all kinds of stuff.
Food.
Yeah, expensive food. We don't go there because it's also like in sailboats. There's also like a kind of a carnival atmosphere there. Great for dates. It's also just walk around, get some cotton candy, yay, you know. Yeah. But Nick was always cool because I'm teaching him how to get girls. He gives me rides. That was our exchange, you know. That was our agreements pretty much. So we're driving home to drop this lady off, our friend off, and my arm is around her. We're just cool, laughing, giggling, ha ha ha. Nick notices that there are two headlights behind us very close. He's the driver, so he should. Thank you, Nick, for being a good, aware driver.
Right.
And then he realized that those headlights never move. And then we're driving all the way home to drop her off. They followed us all the way from Kemah, all the way to her house.
Wow, to Clear Lake?
Yeah.
That's a good ways.
We're 1 block away from her house. Nick has had enough. Nick is white as well. The lady I'm sitting next to is white. I'm the only person that's black in this car. But you can see, if you were behind us, you could see that I am in the back seat as well as right next to her with my arm around her because we thought we were cool. But Nick has had enough. He's like, I am going to run this stop sign. I'm like, what are you doing? This isn't time for a science experiment. Like,
come on, bro, let's just go home.
But he also says that if anything happens, it's better that she's with us instead of just you by yourself. Okay, so he rolls through a stop sign. Woo woo! Yeah. So the lights come on and they walk up. And you know what they're supposed to say when the officers come and approach you at the door? What are they supposed to say?
Do you know why I pulled you over or that kind of thing?
Yeah. Like, you know why I pulled you over? And they didn't. They just went straight to her. Ma'am, are you okay?
Wow.
And Nick was furious.
Yeah.
He's like, why aren't you even asking why?
Yeah.
Why you pulled over? Oh, well, there was mischief in the area. There was criminal mischief in the area, and so we needed to make sure. He's like, what about those stop sign I just rolled through? I blatantly broke the law on that, and that's not even why you pulled me over. Like,
wow.
We're in this together. They're all my best friends right now, and it's like we're in this together. We can all still tell the story, and that makes me think of like my white friends growing up. I'm so glad to have them because for them it wasn't sort of, oh, that doesn't happen here, or you must have done something wrong, because most of the time our society we think that we're so evolved, but we really just act the same as the Bible days when they said, why is this man blind from birth? Well, his parents must have done something wrong. Like we always assume something must have happened for any sort of, well, he's a criminal, so he deserves. No. Wait. 1 second. That only just explains how much you don't know about the situation, because my friends that were there can now tell the story the same way of how it happened. Right. It's not exactly about me thinking that they are portraying me because I'm black or whatever. That's not me making up a case. I liken it like this. This has been my favorite analogy lately. Do you like bees?
Peas?
Bees.
Oh, bees. Not really.
No, why?
Because they sting you.
They sting you. Have you ever been stung?
Not by a bee.
Never been stung by a bee? Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. There are people that are allergic to bees, and they don't want to be stung by bees.
Right.
There are some people that live in this life that have never been stung by a bee. Ever. And they think that you're crazy. A bee sting probably doesn't really hurt. You're probably over exaggerating.
Yeah.
You know, like, and so then when you go outside, you see a bee and you start running, or a hornet or a wasp, you're like, They're probably laughing like, oh my gosh, look at him run. Yeah. You're an idiot, man. Chill. It's just a bee.
It's fine. It's just a bee.
It's the size of a eraser. Like, chill out. Why is he look at this guy? Let me put it on TikTok. Look at it. And then, but the thing is, they've never been stung by a bee. They're like, well, I've read about bees. I know what they're supposed to do. They wouldn't sting you unless you hurt them.
Right.
They wouldn't sting you unless you've been aggressive. So maybe you should just stand there and it'll leave you alone. It's your fault that you got stung, really. And you tell that to a person that's been stung by a bee, and they're like, I'm not asking for your advice on whether or not I hurt.
Right.
I'm not asking for your advice on whether or not I remember my hurt. I'm not asking for your validation of my body, of my thoughts, of my mind, of my spirit. All I know is that I'm in the presence of what can hurt me.
Yeah.
And while you're oblivious to that pain, it doesn't wipe away the fact that it's happened to me.
Right.
Or does it wipe away the fact that it still hurts when it happens again?
Right.
And sometimes, some people are like, I can get stung by a bee. Look, yeah, but get stung while you're 5.
Yeah.
Racism doesn't start when you're 30. Racism doesn't start when you're 20 or in high school. Like, I've seen some of the most racist, hurtful things happen when you're 5. When kids look at you and say, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why is your skin so dark? Like, ew, you have dirt skin. Ew, go take a shower.
Yeah.
These are memories that a lot of black people have growing up. And all they're doing is just, I tell my students, all I'm doing is sitting here breathing, and you're just getting mad. Like, I'm just sitting here breathing, and you feel like there's something wrong with the way I look. You feel like something must be wrong for me to look that way. There must be something wrong for my hair to be a certain texture, or must be something wrong for my lips to be big or my nose to be large. I don't know. Let's go with any kind of generalization that some people feel like is associated with blackness or whatever. And then this happens from a very, very, very early age, where even before 5th grade, you've had many students. And my wife, she's a 3rd grade teacher and 2nd grade teacher, where she's had students have severe suicidal thoughts on their identity based off of what other kids have said, sometimes on their appearance and other things in other bullying situations. But bullying is so prevalent and unfiltered.
Yeah, right.
Unfiltered at a young age that it is, by the time you reach 6th grade, you're almost numb then. By the time I get to high school, it's now a joke to others. So bad. So I didn't mean to go for that.
No, you're good. Yeah.
But the going with the bee sting analogy, the other thing I was having a conversation with is that people are like, well, I played basketball with black people. I had black friends when I was blah, blah, blah. I had black friends and this and that. At school, I had black friends and at church or whatever. And I said to them, that was you inside. Y'all are not outside. That's you in an isolated environment where the bees don't normally go, or the bees are not there to sting you. The bees sting you outside. I'm asking about your friends when the basketball game is over and you go one way and they go the other way. You're outside now, and you're asking them to not get stung, or you're making fun of their life when they are departed from you. That's the toughest thing in the world sometimes, where for some black friends, they don't go home because they know driving at night at certain places where they are, they know they'll probably be pulled over. They'd rather stay where they are, where they're in an isolated, safe environment, than to risk. At this rate, they don't know what they're risking. Right. It's the toughest thing in the world, where I've even had to come to the conversation about, like, do I even feel safe walking around my own neighborhood? do they feel safe seeing me there, you know, wherever I am? And I'm jumping around topics, but
that's okay.
When I tell a lot of people when people ask, well, what is white privilege? What does that mean? Like, I say to me, the definition of quote unquote white privilege is you have the privilege to live your life worry free, of not having to be shot for jogging, not having to feel suspicious when you walk in a room. I can walk into Starbucks and see eyes all over me sometimes.
Yeah.
It's getting better, but it depends on where you are.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's like things that you never thought to think about. The nightmares you've never had. You have the privilege of never having that nightmare. You have the privilege of never being stung by certain bees. You have the privilege to not have certain pains, not to invalidate your pains, not to invalidate your life experiences, not to invalidate your socioeconomic status. But it's almost like you've never had to add another hurt on top of your life as it is. Just trying to get by and just trying to do what you're doing. I hear you. It's tough. It's not easy. Geometry stinks, and and the girl and I got acne, and then and then my voice is changing, and I'm getting taller, I'm getting shorter, and I don't like the way I look in the mirror. I get all of that, but then to add on top of that cake the icing of racism is the privilege that some people have of not having
right.
these certain extra feelings on just trying to grow up in America. And so that is how I kind of define, because I've never, I had to actually post on my Facebook of my community that this is who I am. I am a God-fearing man. I'm a school teacher. This is my picture kind of thing. This is me. So when you see me, you know that's me. And you're not thinking, oh, I'm in trouble.
Why is he here?
Why is he here? Does he belong here?
Right.
We're seeing too much spread around certain social medias that of instances where some people are just trying to do their job. You can have a FedEx driver just walking up, and he's getting stopped in a gated neighborhood. He's just dropping off a package. Let him go. But no, why are you here? He's just trying to make his money. He's just trying to, just earn a living like any other American we hoped would be in the land of the, free in the home of the brave, or liberty and justice for all, or we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. But we're trying to live our life by that American creed by just simply going to work and coming home, and to have that right infringed every day. Every day for some people. For some black people, it is sometimes every day. I wonder, what I'm gonna have to experience now.
Right. Yeah, you think about like a FedEx driver or UPS driver, or Amazon driver now,
They're
and
everywhere.
what the experience is between a. Okay, we're still going. What the experience is between a white, Hispanic, Black, Asian, and just, it's probably different if I had to guess, and especially if you have someone who is of any minority, but I'm probably especially Black, that's sent to a lot of prevalent may not be that, but rich neighborhoods. That it's probably something that really could be a daily
occurrence,
irritation.
And so,
even though they're in a UPS truck, in a uniform,
right, and that's the thing, is that sometimes we go by this is, if I were to address today, where today we're seeing an interesting occurrence of rioting. I'll go backwards. We're addressing the anger, the rioting, the supposed uprisings going on, and I say supposed, and I'll explain that in a second. But I think of it as we're trying to check all the boxes of what America's asking America to do. You're supposed to wear your name badge, wear your uniform, wear non-threatening clothing or something like that, even in your job. You're supposed to, if you need to protest, don't riot. If you need to protest, why can't you do it silently? Why can't you do it with a shirt? Why can't you do it? Like in any kinds of ways that I feel that black people in America have been trying to make themselves heard, they've also been just as much criticized for. Don't protest with our national anthem. Is it not theirs?
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't ever about the anthem. It was almost the complete conundrum of the honor that at this moment, as we think of America, I take honor for those who don't have the opportunity to stand now. And I kneel for them. I respect them. Why is it we can kneel in respect in prayer, but we can't kneel in respect for our neighbors?
Yeah.
And so that was a major issue. But now we're at the point where that quote unquote disrespect towards America was so heard that we're like, okay, we'll even stop. Since you don't appreciate us speaking out for our friends that have hurt, how would you like us to do it? And I'm not defending rioting in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
I'm not agreeing with that kind of outlash or backlash. But I noticed something being a teacher of children for a long time, from ages 4 to 18, that children, especially, they don't scream at first. They point. They might go, They might, even when they start learning words, they'll tell you what they want with their words. You'll tell them, use your words, use your big words or something as you get older. Articulate your thoughts. Tell me more. Tell me politely. But then it gets to a point for a child, I'm going to scream.
Yeah.
Because you're not hearing everything that you're asking me to do. Because if you see a neglectful parent, it doesn't matter what words they use. They don't care. They just want to do their life. You know, the parent that's constantly worrying about their own.
They're looking at this instead of.
They're looking at their phone. They're not hearing. They're distracted with their own agendas or what's going on.
Right.
And so then the child screams to get their attention. They don't scream sometimes to even get what they want anymore. Now they just want your attention. You ever, like, some children are actually behavioral problems, not anymore because of what they want. They actually just want love. Some of our worst behaved children in the school systems are actually coming out of the most broken homes.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they're not screaming out for attention for their grades. They're screaming out attention for their life. Yeah. And so you have a lot of America and what they got to go home to. Exactly. And so a lot of America is trying to say, this is what we go home to. We see mistreatment of people by people. And that's coming to a boiling point for a lot of people in many different colors. Because we're seeing, let me make sure it's very clear, it's not just black people that are angry.
Oh, yeah.
We are seeing a lot of people around the world react in a way we haven't seen before.
Yep.
And I've seen white people on television rioting. I've seen Hispanic, Latin America rioting. I've seen Asian Americans rioting, standing up, protesting in some form or fashion. It's been a very major temper tantrum that we're throwing. But I go to the focus on, what are they screaming about?
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's I kind of, in reading what people have to say and looking through, trying to sort of hear different perspectives and things like that, that's kind of what I've come to. Same thing that you said, it's not something where we can sit here and say it's okay, because it's not okay to destroy other people's property. It's not okay to threaten the lives of other people. As followers of Jesus, we just can't, we can't say that.
Right.
But it doesn't negate the issue that the screaming is about. Right.
I think of, as a minister myself, I think of Jesus flipping tables. Oftentimes, when he's coming, this is the last week, and he's coming into city of Jerusalem, and he sees what's going on at the steps of the temple, and he's just beyond moved with anger of, you have desecrated the house of God, and so this has got to go. He's moved to action, and just overrunning all the tables and pretty much rioting in his own right. Mm-hmm. And says that my God's house shall be a house of prayer.
Yeah.
And sometimes the narrative I've heard has been that why would people riot? Is because why would they take? Why would they loot? Why would they steal? Mm-hmm. And some people have said that people have reacted this way to give you a glimpse of what hurt feels like. Mm-hmm. If you don't see that, because you've seen a person die pretty much in front of your eyes,
right, and
was not moved. Mm-hmm. So what does hurt you?
Yeah,
they're just trying to have you sympathize. I mean, at their own personal agenda, but sure. This has been an interesting perspective on why people have resulted to these actions. I don't condone them at all. But at the same time, Chris Rock says, I would never do that.
Yeah,
but I understand.
Yeah.
So it's like I would never do that. You can't
miss the message because.
But I understand.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing is, and understanding the message doesn't. Even if I sat here and you haven't really said anything that I don't disagree with, but even if I sat here and heard everything that you said and disagreed with 80% of it, I could still take the time to understand, and I think that I feel like that's the purpose that we are doing this right now.
Absolutely.
Is because we have to get to a point where we're willing to understand each other.
Absolutely.
And I think something that you brought to my mind when you were talking about the white privilege thing is how a lot of times a white person's response to that is born out of a misunderstanding of what that term means. Mm-hmm. Because I was talking to my dad about this earlier. Mm-hmm. Every symbol, every phrase, everything, every word sometimes can get hijacked and led to say things that it wasn't ever initially meant to say. Mm-hmm. And I think white privilege might be one of those where it can be a really constructive thought for people to help people have some perspective on their station in life versus another, especially a follower of Jesus as we're trying to figure out how to love our neighbor, but at the same time, it's become a bully club by a lot of people too, to where now, if we're not careful, our reaction to that phrase, I'm saying as a white person, my reaction to that phrase is out of hurt because I've been beat up with it.
Understood.
Rather than it defined like you did.
You're right.
You're
right. You're right. It has been very much kind of misused and misunderstood, because it's almost like there hasn't been enough truth and understanding with how people have presented. What do I mean by white privilege?
Sure.
So. Because it's
on social media.
Because it's on social media. And so like, well, someone else said it, and they're too busy talking about two words, and then they don't even expound about what that means. So now you actually have a generation of kids that they're trying to be socially conscious, and then they're told they have white privilege. So then they almost feel enabled of, well, I have privilege, and I'm gonna they're almost doubled down in the or double dipped in this idea of, well, you're white, so therefore, whoa. I will tell you, and I implore everyone to please hear me with the love of Christ. It is simply the fact of recognizing that you are not endowed or ingrained with a certain societal burden that exists, whether you acknowledge it or not, over other Americans.
Yeah.
And this is why it's referred to white privilege, because unfortunately, we have a lot of other stigmas that are not very positive for all of our other Americans. Black Americans are quote unquote thugs. Hispanic Americans are quote unquote lazy or pick our fruit. Chinese or Asian Americans or Koreans or blah blah blah. We have or even if you
stigmas
they're the smart kids just because they're Asian or something like that, or like whatever. You create up stereotypes, biases, things like that, and then we get to almost quote unquote white people. I say like that because everybody, there's so many different levels.
Sure.
But then the generality is like, cool. And because that is almost a privilege of you're not initially judged when you walk in the room. That's
the biggest one to me that I can, because I can, just being honest, I know that I have struggled with that and that I have to fight that when someone of a different race walks in the room to remind myself he or she is bearing the image of God. This is not about, their color or their, because, and honestly, in my line of work and what I do here and in our community, because we don't have a whole lot of minorities, it happens with white people too. Someone comes in and, not wearing the greatest clothes, they kind of smell bad, all that stuff. I have to remember this guy's made in the image of God. And that's the but I believe you're right. And one of the things for me, from my perspective, that I saw was I guess it was probably, I don't know, 5 to 7 years ago, when something like the George Floyd event happened. Let me rephrase, the George Floyd murder happened.
That's true.
I remember reading an article by a guy.
Eric Gardner was 2016.
I think it was probably Eric Gardner, because that was the first one that hit me.
Like I Can't Breathe campaign?
Yeah, that one was the one that I was like, okay, what can you say that was okay? There was a lot of like weird justification on a lot of other the other cases, but that one for me, and the Philando Castile, I think it's
Philando Castile in Minnesota as well. Yeah.
That one, those two for me were the ones that kind of sort of brought me out of my thinking at that point. But when both of those came out, there was a blog written by a white guy who had adopted a black kid, and he was like, "Look, you people don't understand." He said, and I didn't understand until I had to have a conversation with my kid and tell him that he can't wear a hoodie, even though his brother can. And I was like, "Whoa, this is real." And so I started listening. I started looking up guys like, I know this is going to sound really white of me probably, but I looked up Lecrae and I said, what does Lecrae have to say? What does Triple E have to say? What are they? Because I love those guys.
Absolutely.
I love their music. Absolutely. I love what they have to say, And so I was like, man, what are they? And they're all, and Tony Evans, is talking about that, and he's saying, this is real. And so I'm thinking, okay, now these are all guys in my camp.
Yeah.
Like these are my brothers in Christ. They're not left-wing lunatics,
Right.
They're not people that are trying to justify criminal activity. It's none of that. I mean, these are like my people, and that was when it really came. And that's why I wanted for us to have that conversation, because let's be honest, we haven't seen each other. We've communicated a little bit, but haven't seen each other.
This is the longest
for like
conversation
12 years.
we've had in 12 years.
Yeah. Well, probably ever.
Yeah.
I don't know. When we lived together, we had a few on the couch.
I think there was some good couch. That was a good couch. That was a good couch. We had couch conversations.
Yeah.
And that was when you were coming to God and you realized what you were going to do and you were going to be here. That was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But I would say also with that is that there was, let me think about it. I think with our conversations, where you're also going is the fact of you had to self-analyze of what I did not see in front of me the entire time.
Yeah.
The thing is, it kind of wasn't for you to see, but it was. What was for you to see is that people are always human. Mm-hmm. That everyone's entitled to their pain. Right. Everyone's entitled to their hurt. You cannot invalidate a person when they say "ouch." Mm-hmm. It creates trauma. It creates distress. It creates anger. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Mm-hmm. And when you've had a lot of people up until this moment saying "ouch," this is why I go back to Eric Gardner saying "I can't breathe," and oh my gosh, the amount of joking and slander I've seen. Well, if you couldn't breathe, you wouldn't be able to say "I can't breathe."
Right.
Sir.
It's bullcrap. Yeah.
How insensitive to life must you be? Yeah. About a person begging for their life. It wasn't even saying "let me go." It just says, whatever you're doing, can you at least let me live?
I want to survive it. That's what I would like.
That is this is probably what I'm going to your author, is that author probably never had to think about raising a black child until then. Mm-hmm. The conversation that most black fathers now have to have with their sons is not about when the police officer pulls you over, you say hello, you say yes sir, you say yes ma'am, you take your ticket and you go. Mm-hmm. They just say, keep your hands on the wheel, don't say anything in any tone, and only focus on getting home alive. Yeah. We'll worry about the ticket, the court, whatever later. Right. I just need you to survive this encounter. Hands on the wheel. Yeah. And just throw the keys out. Don't even make no sudden movements. You're not going, nothing threatening. And so that is kind of like when I feel for your author, because then the blinders are lifted of, I now have to think about what this means for this child, because the eyes of empathy never had to happen until then. Right. And so I think that is hopefully what a lot of people are coming to a new understanding of. Me and my wife have been talking about how, honestly, there's been so many more conversations between friends that have been just honestly reaching out to me like, yo, are you okay? We haven't talked in a while, and I'm gonna be honest, like, I might be their only black friend, so I'll be there. Like, like, if you need some perspective, okay, fine, let's work. Because the main question, and I want to address this question with you and help a little bit, is that the main question I've heard from a lot of like, I would say white moderates. This is how, well, what do I do? Yeah. You know, it's like, how do I help? Because even if I tried to like donate something, some people get upset. Like, I don't want your charity or blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, what do I do? Like, how do I make a change? Do I protest with them? Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to put my life in line, but what do I do? How do I help? This is the beginning. Yeah. I'm not saying just go out you and find a white or black friend. Hey, you, come here. Like, but even if let's go from the extreme. If you've never had a black friend, I would say you really need to change that in some form or fashion. Just reevaluate who you encounter in your life. I'm pretty sure God is going to bless you. He will, with an encounter. So reevaluate your encounters with your life. Reevaluate your input. What is feeding you? Are you on TikTok all day? Yeah. Maybe just go on Twitter or Instagram. Review your own likes. Right. Like, go back to what did I even put in my spirit? Yeah. What
did I give my sort of thumbs up to?
Yes. What did I put my stamp of? It was okay. What did I put my stamp of approval on? Am I really okay with, and does that line up with what my goal is? If my goal is for healing and help in this world, and if I'm talking about the black community, how do I reach out to the black community? What is it I'm first liking at first? Because there's a lot of people that will see the same thing and say it didn't happen. And so it's almost like, well, what side am I feeding? Not saying I gotta feed the black side, but am I honestly feeding myself other people that are so focused on him on a class, the lowest class misdemeanor you can find, as a justification for murder? Why do I say that? Because really, Matthew 7:1, judge not lest you be judged. For the same manner of how you judge others shall you be judged. Mm-hmm. It means for that same pettiness, saying that he deserved to die.
Right.
You're asking for God to look at you with that same situation. Right. Why? Because if you can't forgive your friend on earth, how are you expecting God to forgive you? It even says in the prayers that actually that God doesn't hear your prayers when you can't forgive. That's a matter of forgiveness. But also the same idea of how is it I extend my life to you? Because I'm asking Jesus to extend his life for me.
Yeah.
I'm pleading to Jesus for his forgiveness of sins and the death that he died, but he died not only for me and for you. Mm-hmm. Everything, flaws and all. Like we want to accept Jesus and God take me and my broken heart, but the next neighbor, no, whatever he did is horribly wrong. He needs to die. Blah blah blah. How is it how does your words line up with God?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because here's the real thing, and I'm being real honest. For about 5 years, we had this really interesting movement of a prayer. God, break my heart for what breaks yours.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we have a pop quiz now.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've seen, but there is a man that died. Mm-hmm. Period. Mm-hmm. A man died. If you say but at the end of that sentence, is that the same manner you want God to look at your faults, your sins, your situation? Or you're asking God to, why is it we always have grace for us, but never grace for the next neighbor?
Yeah.
So the same, I'm jumping all over the scriptures, but it's true.
Yeah, come on.
Whereas Jesus gave us 2 commandments, love your Lord thy God with all thy heart, the soul, and your mind. And the second commandment is like unto it, love your neighbor as thyself. It's not to say love your neighbor as you like. I mean, I'm cool, so you're cool.
Yeah, right.
It really also means in the translation, love your neighbor as if it were you. And the manner I show love to me is really the manner I show love to you. So how I treat you is actually an example of what I think of me. So if I love me, I love you more than me. I tell people with my wife, the way I honor me is how I honor her. And then to honor God is how I honor my brothers and sisters around me. So the way I love people who I don't know, which is also what she says, how can you love someone you don't see when you won't show love to the person that you do see? So it's that I see my brother. If I really want to experience God, bless someone you don't know. Yeah. If you really want to experience God, serve someone you don't like. If you really want to experience God, I feel God. If you really want to experience God, put yourself in a place that was uncomfortable. Why? Because Jesus did it for you.
Yeah, that's right.
It was uncomfortable for him to be on the cross. It was uncomfortable to bear the burden of our sin. It was uncomfortable. He prayed so much in the Garden of Gethsemane, God, if this cup can pass from me, I don't really want to do this. Yeah. I'm crying, I'm bleeding so out of stress that I really don't want to do this. It's so uncomfortable. Right. So I love y'all, but don't give your excuse as an uncomfortable as a reason for you to continue to be complacent in nothingness. Right. So the uncomfort level is also sometimes an indicator of how much it requires faith to fulfill it. Yeah. So then through the faith of, I may not know you, but I know God knows you. Yeah. So I'm going to God and I'm going to act as on his behalf to love you here. Right. Because I love God. You don't have to like him. You don't have to appreciate him. You may not know anything about him. Now, I would appreciate if you get to know people more often. Right. That would be a major, major step for you to, how do you have this conversation? Because that was another point I wanted to get to. If you have black friends that you know of, how much have you talked to them about them? Don't talk about the NBA. Don't talk about typical general ideas. Ask them a question. How are you and how are you really feeling? Yeah. Do you really know what they've gone through? Yeah. Do you assume? There are some people at your school that you might know. Maybe you can reach out to them. In fact, you might be the only one that reaches out to them. They might really, because here's a real fact, and I tell you as a fact, every black person in America has PTSD right now. Because it's almost like it's happened so often that I feel that we have seen ourselves in that position. Why? Because there's been so many miscellaneous scenarios where it's like I've seen people arrested at Starbucks for just sitting down. I've seen people arrested at Ross for just shopping. I've seen people killed in the street for just getting their wallet out when they were asked to get their ID.
Right.
So,
and you think about all the times that you've been pulled over and all the times that you just,
so it's like,
it's hard to not wonder, well, could that have been me?
Yes.
Any of those other 100 times?
Yes. Sometimes watching the news is like watching a scary movie. Yeah. And it's scarier because it really happened.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I realize that my white friends will watch the same thing. I'm like, that'll never happen. As if it was a scary movie. It's totally fiction. Look at the fake blood, blah, 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 blah. It's a conspiracy or not. And I'm like, sir, this is a movie that is worse than real life because it is real life. So in any case, if you have black friends, please reach out to them and have conversations. Don't try to solve anything.
Right.
Don't. Well, how do I do? What do I do? No. You're not a fixer.
Yeah.
You're not a fixer.
Right.
This is. I liken this conversation to like when you got married, and it's like the male perspective from the female perspective. She just wants you to listen.
Yeah.
You're trying to solve problems. She doesn't want you to fix her problems. In fact, by you listening, you're fixing her problem because she might just talk it out. And just by her talking it out, she isn't going to smother you in your sleep later on. Like, so, but as men, we're like, well, what do I fix? What do I want to do? Do you want me to punch him?
Well,
what?
It's
like,
easy. You just do this, and this, and it's all fixed.
Why are you even mad? Right. Like, all you got to do is. They're not here for the list of what to fix because half the time they already know what to fix.
Right.
They just need you to hear them. They want to get the emotion out the way. Yeah. It's like, to me, it's almost that's the same kind of thing. It's like, me personally, I would like to get slavery out the way. Like, it's been 400 years if I include slavery and then Jim Crow and then civil rights and then Reconstruction, let's call it that, post civil rights America, because I can't call it post racial America because here we are. So we're in racial reconstruction era. I've redefined a whole new history area. But this is where we are. Why? Because we still have to have these conversations. It's a matter of conversations. Have you ever, probably the same list of questions that you have are great, tough conversations that some kids need to have with their friends. Dude, have you been in a situation where you felt threatened? Have you been in a situation where people thought you were racist to you? Have I done anything that you felt was uncomfortable?
Yeah, right.
My own father-in-law, being white, he had to ask me those same questions. He's like, have I said anything that crossed the line? I'm sorry. Can we make like a racial meter? Like he did this. Like he's like, was this like a 5? Is this okay? No. All right. Well, I need to know. Like, it's the same idea. Like, like come to an understanding between each other. Because how can two walk together except that they agree? So you can't have friendships without agreement. So you need to have agreements by having conversations.
Right.
And
that's the thing that I think students really struggle with that too. Because there's a lot of things. I told you I was talking to my dad about some things, and one of the things that we talked about is that students are often some of the most misinformed group of people and it's some of it is because they're still working on critical thinking and they haven't experienced enough life to be cynical about things that they hear. There's a lot of that's they're uninformed, but sometimes they're uninformed because we have lost the art of a conversation in younger generations. And I don't want to sound like the old guy shaking my finger at them, but I guess I am, but I mean, this kind of thing, looking at each other in the eyeballs. That's why I'd tell our students all the time is like, sometimes you need to look somebody in the eyeballs and just talk, ask questions, like, and become, if you can do anything, probably one of the defining characteristics of Jesus' ministry was how he asked questions.
Yes.
And he sometimes he asked
a question
to know.
With a question,
and sometimes he asked to tell you something.
Yes.
But if you can work on a craft work on asking good questions.
Because
you will get to know people, and you'll get to be in the place of truly being a friend.
Absolutely.
Rather than this follower mindset that I think social media has trained us to be, to where, I watch his Bible studies on Thursdays, or I do this, or I do, and we don't. I mean, I've noticed that we're trying to. Me and Melanie are trying to have people over to our house more often.
Yeah.
So that we can truly get to know and just have conversations and ask things like, we had a family over at our house this last Friday, and he said, "Hey, how'd you come to know Jesus?"
Yeah.
And man, I learned so much about them from that one question.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, white evangelical students, ask your black friends, how'd you come to know Jesus, right?
Yeah, that's a great one.
Or do you know Jesus,
right.
Because we got to tell our friends about Christ too. And maybe they're the ones that need to be asking.
If you say, have you tried Jesus, and they say he's all right, that's a good thing.
Yeah, right.
For the black church, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation, right?
Right. Church lingo back and forth. But in any case, I'm a teacher, so I thought about it this way. Racial America conversations is like that group project that no one wants to be a part of.
Right.
Like, oh God, group project. Yeah. But this is the problem. You're not the one doing all the work. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting in a group of 4, and we sometimes always kind of shift the blame, quote unquote, back to the one that always has to do the work. Unfortunately, that feels like Black America, where we're trying to protest and or make our voices heard or say this is wrong or. And I'm saying, when I say Black America, I'm literally going to include any and all colors that are with the movement. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So sure, Black America, meaning recognizing that this is a black stain of the beauty that could be in America. That's how I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so then they're saying, well, you need to do all this work, and then this is how you should do it. The best group projects I've ever seen have been completion task. Whereas I'll start a piece, but then I hand it off to you. And I'll be getting what the next person handed off to me. And if they didn't do much, I mean, I'll do my work, but also it's not mine to finish.
Right.
It's not enough for just a whole bunch of black people to say stop. It won't stop. That's like the bullied person in the corner when everybody's getting at them about dodgeball. I don't know if y'all even play dodgeball anymore, but and then they say, stop, I'm getting hit. It's not until someone joins his team. Right. And then another joins his team. You may not even necessarily have to have their abilities look like them, whatever. It's just a matter of, okay, they need more people on their team. It could be Team Jesus. It can be Team Starbucks. Find something. You never know what team you're on because you never have these conversations. Yeah. So it's like our conversations. This is what I was thinking about. Oftentimes we teach as youth pastors, we talk about rules without relationship build rebellion. So we are great at, having the relationship with Jesus. We're saved by grace, and you need to show forgiveness, and let's show ourselves friendly. And we're doing great to establish relationship with Jesus. But then when it comes to our actual relationships on earth, we really need to understand this a little bit of a flip. It's not about rules in relationship for rebellion. It's really, I have resources in a way. You have resources. Who you are is a resource. You are a blessing. Just who you are is automatic blessing. Every one of you are just automatic blessings. Just by you being alive, you are going to bless someone by being alive. That's the greatest thought in the world, that I am here for a potential. Unrealized blessing potential. I'm a blessing explosion ready to happen in somebody's life. Why? I'm gonna make somebody a good husband. I'm gonna make somebody a good wife. I'm the best boyfriend ever. Like, look at somebody and say, I'm your best blessing, and so the thing is, you're such blessing potential. But so you're a resource in this world. We're blessed to be a blessing. We are here to do the work of Christ, to serve others. But resources without relationship build resentment. If you try to give something to somebody who didn't ask for it, or you don't know them, or whatever, and you it comes off.
I feel bad. So
I feel bad as guilt. Yeah. It's a guilt give. Right. And then the person that's even if they need it, they're like, I don't want this out of that heart.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I want a contrite, an understanding, forgiving, like humble heart. It's humbleness. It's when Jesus says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the kingdom." Like they shall inherit the earth, because it's also because you're humbling yourself down. Even though you thought, you were all this and all that in some form or fashion, you're really saying, I'm just trying to understand, and I just want to bless you in any way, shape, or form. I want to bless you with friendship. I want to bless you with understanding. I want to bless you, but I can't just force myself on it. But it does come with repeated conversations, repeated attempts. Well, I tried one, black friend. Like, you got to try again, Johnny, right? So... But then that if we're doing it without relationship, it breeds resentment, and we're still right back in the same place, because it's like, well, I tried and all right, how did we try? Yeah. Did we take our time?
Right.
It's the same thing of getting on a bicycle.
Sure.
If kids ride bikes anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm being the old guy now. Like, you don't even ride bikes. Like,
come on now.
It has 2 wheels. No, it doesn't have her. All right. So, but I would say, like, this is always the greatest exchange. Why? Because after this conversation, Brian, you will walk out of here and say, I have just at least a grain of sand more knowledge on the situation of how people feel in this situation.
Right.
And so when others talk to me, you can be like, no. I know a little more.
Yeah.
I know a little more to say that's not okay. You know, it's the same thing we do with Jesus. Like, how do I'm intimidated with how much you know about God. I didn't start there. I started with that first verse. Jesus wept, you know, or for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, and whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting abundant life.
Yeah.
And so with that, that's where we start. And then we grow. We grow in relationship. We pray to God. Our first prayer, oh, God. Second prayer, help me, God. Fourth prayer, oh, please, God.
Yeah.
And you get to the Jesus Christ, please. Like it grows.
Right.
You know, your first prayer, all right.
Well, hope you're listening,
Dear God, it's me.
Yeah.
So...
But it's a prayer. That's
it's a prayer.
Point.
It's still what, and God values that mostly not because of just how much he's been waiting to talk to you, but he also values the potential that it's about to grow into. Like yes, bring more. Like I know you're starting off small. I'm gonna shut up after this. That a baby, when they first walk, it's a fall.
Yeah,
they stand, but their first step is a fall, and then what happens is it catches itself with that fall. And it catches itself again with a leg of that fall. And so walking becomes a series of successful falls.
Right.
Where as really God's on the other side of the room saying, come on, you can do it. And if you have your eyes on God, you can fall a couple of times, but get up and still keep walking towards him.
Yeah. Right.
So the same way we're building relationship was like, you may not get the perfect black friend tomorrow, situation, but open yourself up, humble yourself, and put aside everything the world is trying to feed into your mind about everybody else. Look into your heart about what would Jesus do, and then do it.
Yeah. Right.
Extend that hand. Yeah. Extend the conversation. Right. Extend fellowship. Jesus blessed, like one of the best things, miracles I thought about was just how Jesus was among them.
Yeah, right.
At the end of the day, like me and my wife keep coming back to this situation of Mary and Martha. Man, that was a good Bible study. Is that Martha was too busy doing her duties, but Mary could recognize that Jesus was there.
Yeah.
And she had the wherewithal to worship at the moment. Don't let precious moments with people pass you by because you're too busy doing what you were doing.
Right. I'd like to throw one other kind of caveat to that I think is important for people that hear the things that I hear all the time, is that, just because you hear somebody closed-minded on the other side of the issue. So I think you would be willing to say that while you are with the Black Lives Matter movement, you are all in that, and I am too, by the way. Mm-hmm. But you're there, but you probably would say that there's some elements of it that you're like, no. Mm-hmm. So if you encounter someone from a movement that you find disagreeable, don't give up on everybody there.
Yeah.
And don't give up on those conversations because you had a tough one.
Right.
Because that's one of those falls you were talking about.
Exactly.
You know, that sometimes, and because there's idiots everywhere, right?
Yes.
You know, there's people, well, and I shouldn't say it that way. There's selfish people who are living the world.
We have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God.
Absolutely, right.
Yes.
And so, and it's everywhere. It's not in one, it's not in the other, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so, if you come across someone, you know, if you're really kind of taking this mantle and saying, you know what, I'm going to do my best to begin to have good conversations. And, you know, even beyond this current issue in our nation, just in general, politically, you know, with someone that you politically disagree with. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to take these conversations. Don't be dismayed when you see somebody on Facebook say something, or see somebody on Instagram or Twitter that says something that you're just like, wow, that's totally off.
Yeah.
You know, don't give up on the whole thing, and don't give up on conversations, because you might still have something to learn from other people in that movement that aren't being knuckleheads. Right?
There's even, the Bible even talks about expect this kind of backlash. Expect, even when you're trying to do good, expect people to criticize you. It might even mean, look, I have students that out there that really might have problems in their own families. Like their mom and dad are saying incredible stuff that they don't agree with. Mm-hmm. Like, what do I do then? Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. And Jesus says, number one, honor your mother and your father. That's right. But this is how you can honor them, with prayer. When you encounter people that you don't agree with, even in your own family, it is also your privilege to pray for them. I'm not saying white privilege. I'm saying your privilege, just anyone to pray, to pray for them about, God, I hope that you open their heart as you are yet opening mine.
Right.
Because I wish that they would change with me, or whatever, explore this conversation with me. Yeah. And it sounds like they're not there yet. Mm-hmm. So you pray for them just Jesus says, as I have prayed for you. Mm. Whereas in Jesus was glad that you came to a certain realization, you also have to have faith and patience for them to come to certain realizations for them. But you are also the change. You're the secret weapon. You're the secret. You're the secret agent in that situation for change. Of when you encounter people that have a different perspective, or they say things that are off in whatever arena, you're able to also go back to prayer. Don't give up and just be like, well, I tried.
Yeah.
But also you can be like, no, all right, so the obvious answer didn't work. I'm not going through the front door. I'll go through the back door with prayer. Yeah. Focus, giving it to God. Cast your cares. That's another care.
It's the most powerful thing we can do.
It's another care. Cast it at his feet. Cast it back to Jesus. It's like, all right, God, you have to take this one. I'll find the next one that you really want me to deal with. But
sure, but this one, I can't do it.
Well, that's you. That was on you, buddy.
Right. So to kind of wrap up for those, well, first let me ask: is there anything else that you feel like teenagers need to hear from your perspective on racial injustice in general in our nation, or specifically with the George Floyd murder? Is there anything else that we just need to hear from you? I
would remind the teenagers out there that 4 years goes very quickly. Your seniors are very much attesting to that. You have a power in every place that you live in America currently to adjust your laws however you see fit, to vote however you see fit. I just remind you of the democracy that we're blessed with. That if you don't like something, you technically can change it.
Right.
And when I say 4 years go quickly, it means every freshman right now, You have a major impact on the next Senate election in 4 years. You have a major impact on the next city council. You can run for city council in some places. All my seniors in the next 2 years, just be 21, you're done. Like, you can start planning your change now. What I mean is that I've noticed that when I'm a teacher, I'll have a sophomore or a junior talking about freshman. Oh, that was so long ago. Yeah. But it was only 2 years. And after you get a couple more years under your belt, you realize they happen fast. Yeah. They start getting faster and faster. And so what I mean is you're actually closer to your change than you think you are. Once you hit 18, you're of legal age to vote. You're of legal age to participate in this democratic process in America that we have currently. Mm-hmm. And so with that, I fully advocate for you to be excited about that moment, to get plugged in. You're no longer at that moment too little. You're now just on time. And so I'm talking to you now as future leaders of America, as future fathers, as future mothers, as future pastors, as future doctors, lawyers, all of the above, that you're closer than you realize to doing something major in this country. And so with that, you must also guard your heart, guard your mind, and guard your spirit with what is influencing those decisions. And I understand it's daunting to sometimes go against the family grain, because like my dad's never had a black friend, my grandmother's never had a black friend, and we've never had black friends, and blah, blah, blah. Congratulations, you're the first. There's a lot of first. There's a lot of people that are first in college. There's an honor. Like, bless your family with. I'll tell the truth. My wife. My wife's grandfather, 91 years old, 91-year-old white man, who was a little notorious for not exactly accepting people of my color. And our relationship has grown to so much where I'm like, that is my buddy.
Yeah.
That awesome. Is my buddy. Like, he lights up. I brag about this, but he kind of lights up because he's kind of losing his teeth. Yeah. But he looks like a 91-year-old baby. Yeah. With his smile when we have conversation. Just yeah. Like, it's so stinking cute. And I think about his generation. 91 years, so he's seen it all, quite literally. Yeah. And how his generation can still yet learn to change and accept love in this family. And when I say this family, I mean this family of America, this family of Texas. I love Texas. I love Canyon Lake. I've tubed here way too many times. Like, and there's so much beauty in the love that we can share with each other. And sometimes you got to think about your unlocked potential of loving another person that doesn't look like you. Yeah. You can have your preferences, but I'm saying, like, your friendships that don't look like you, your experiences. Like, something I think about at Texas State. I lived at Arnold Hall. Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. You lived at Arnold?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Golly. Like, Arnold Hall has a courtyard in the middle of it. And I remember having so many wonderful conversations because that courtyard was also like in the pathway of everybody going to class.
Yeah. Multiple buildings. The library was right there. The Chick-fil-A was right there. And the math building, all within like 200 feet of each of Arnold Hall. And music building.
And the music building right down, because we were music students. And so that's why we picked it. But there were so many conversations with so many different people. You didn't agree with them. Some of them you yelled at them. Some of them got heated. But you kept, me personally, I kept going back to that courtyard to have another conversation. I'm going to go back there. I'm going to change a mind or something. But I'm going to make friends. But there were so many conversations that lasted until 8 a.m.
Yeah.
All night. You'd hear them because they keep Brian up because they'd be talking for so loud. But then you realize those moments change your life. Those conversations you had with people to really open your eyes up of like, I still have so much more to learn. And it wasn't my family that taught me. It wasn't the school that taught me. It was me simply having a conversation with a person that wasn't from where I'm from, didn't do what I do, and didn't look the way I look. And those are my best character defining moments.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'd like to connect this to as we wrap up, and I really don't want to wrap up. Can I just say that? I kind of want to just, and maybe we'll just turn
Part
the cameras
two.
off. Yeah. But I think it's really important because we're unapologetically followers of Jesus. As those of us who are on this podcast on a weekly basis, and I know you are too. And so I think it's really important that we understand that as we do these things, we want to challenge anyone listening that you can do this the best from a relationship with Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so, sure, you can do a lot of these things without following Christ, without accepting the forgiveness that can be found in Him and His work on the cross and raising from the grave. But really, to have that abundant life that we've been talking about, to share that abundant life with others, the very best thing that you can do is begin that walk with Jesus, because Absolutely. He really does. And this is the thing that makes me the saddest about a lot of these things, but is also hopeful, is that I've seen some followers of Jesus, or those who claim to follow Jesus, really not follow Jesus in this time, or with this specific time in our country, and it's sad because it's such a great opportunity to do it and to be different. Because I kind of go back to thinking about whenever we got this together 5 days ago or something. I was thinking about it and I was going, man, what? This happens over and over and over, and I don't do anything about it. I don't do anything. And I thought, I think I had been watching some of your Bible studies that you've been putting up on Facebook, and I was like, man, I just need to call Justyn. And then I was like, crap, I haven't talked to this dude in like a long time. He's probably going to think, oh yeah, your one black friend, okay, But I had to get over that, right? I had to get over whatever. Honestly, I really do believe that the enemy was pulling me away from doing the Jesus following thing, which is to get with my brother who knows about the things that are going on and talk to him about it, And so, and to share the conversation with others that may not get to have that conversation,
That's true.
And so my point is that my relationship with Jesus calls me out to do things that are abnormal, and that but they, even though they're abnormal, that doesn't mean that they're not good. And I would even say, even the fruit of this conversation in my own life, it's not just good, it's great. It's very good, as God said in the creation account. And so I think that if I could challenge students out there at the end of this conversation, it would be to, one, start with Jesus. Get right with Jesus. Understand what you have been forgiven of. Because when you get that, you can level with people that you couldn't level with before, because sometimes it's remembering like, oh, Jesus died for that dude too. Jesus died for that dude, that lady. Died for her too. And it's like, wow. And so but it totally changes your perspective, and it gives you, and really and honestly, it gives you the power to do things that I don't think you would normally do. You know? And so my plea and my challenge to those of you at home, in your car, wherever you are, listening to this or watching this, is follow Jesus, and then have conversations, but make a point of it. Don't just not just, I hope that maybe if I come across this person, I'll talk to them about it. No, figure out how to contact him and contact him. I didn't have Justyn's phone number, so I got him on Facebook, like just whatever way you can, and start having conversations, because I really do believe that it is a great way we can love our neighbor. So, Justyn, thanks so much for being on the podcast and sharing your wealth of insight and knowledge and the wealth of your relationship with Jesus.
Absolutely, and
it was awesome.
It was a great experience, and you can always, no matter what, you can always pray.
Yeah.
No matter what,
Amen.
You can always pray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you feel like you have nothing that you can possibly do, go to the Lord with it.
Absolutely.
Because He's the one that numbered the stars.
Absolutely.
He did that. He can handle some things, right?
It, yes.
And most of all, He can handle your heart.
He can handle your heart.
He can readjust you. He can give you perspective. He can give you insight on what He wants you to do.
Yes.
So thanks for that challenge, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
can we fist
buddy.
bump? Is it okay? Well, thanks, guys, for joining us, and we'll see you later on.